Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's deep dive into a topic that is going to redefine the future of global trade, geopolitics, and India's rise as an economic superpower. Yes, I'm talking about the historic free trade agreement between India and the European Union, which, according to reports, is now expected to be sealed by December. And to make this happen, not one but two crucial ministerial visits are lined up this very week. This is not just a trade deal. This is a geopolitical chess move, one that carries implications for global supply chains, for the balance of power in Asia and Europe, and for India's domestic economy. So, in the next 40 minutes, let us break down the story piece by piece, its background, its economic weight, the political narratives, the challenges, and what it means for ordinary people like you and me. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the India-UFTA is being called a game changer on par with India's WTO entry in 1995. The European Union, as you know, is the world's largest trading bloc, counting for nearly 15% of global trade. India, on the other hand, is the world's fastest-growing major economy, projected to become the third largest economy by 2030. When these two giants come together, we're talking about a potential trade corridor worth hundreds of billions of dollars annually. For years, India and the EU have danced around this FTA. Negotiations first began in 2007. Since then, there have been multiple rounds of talks, breakdowns, reboots, and political deadlocks. But now, after 16 long years, there seems to be real momentum. The deadline of December is not just a random date. It coincides with several political and economic pressures. India's 2024 general elections. Modi's government wants to show concrete global achievements. EU's internal urgency. The bloc is facing competition from China's trade outreach and wants India on its side. Global trade realignment. With supply chains shifting out of China, Europe sees India as the next best alternative. This December deadline is therefore symbolic and strategic. It gives both sides a clear timeline to iron out disagreements. Reports suggest that two high-profile ministerial visits are happening this week, one from India to Brussels, and one from the EU side to New Delhi. This is diplomacy in full throttle. Normally, trade negotiations drag on quietly in back rooms. But when ministers themselves step in, it signals political will at the highest levels. And let me tell you, without political will, no FTA of this scale can ever be finalized. So, what exactly is being negotiated? Tariff reductions. India wants lower tariffs on textiles, IT services, and pharmaceuticals. The EU, in return, wants greater access for its automobiles, wines, and industrial goods. Sustainability standards. The EU has strict climate-linked trade policies. India wants flexibility to protect its industries. Digital trade and data protection. A huge sticking point. Europe wants strong data privacy frameworks. India is cautious. Investment protections. European investors are seeking stronger legal protections in India. Geopolitical alignment. Both sides want this deal to counterbalance China's dominance in trade. This is not just about tariffs and quotas. This is about who writes the rules of global trade in the 21st century. Millions of jobs could be created in IT, pharma, textiles, and green energy sectors. For Europe, India offers a 1.4 billion strong consumer market and a stable democratic partner in Asia at a time when trust in China is collapsing. The politics behind the deal, of course. Economics is only one side of the coin. Politics is just as fascinating. For Prime Minister Modi, sealing this FTA means positioning India as a global rule maker, not just a rule taker. It strengthens his Make in India narrative. For the EU, signing with India is a way to say, we don't just depend on China anymore. It's also about sending a message to Washington that Europe can build its own independent trade ties with the world's major economies. And let's not forget the Russia-Ukraine war. With Europe cutting down energy ties with Russia, India is emerging as a supply chain stabilizer. Now, let's not get carried away. There are hurdles. Farmers in India worry that cheap European dairy will flood the market. European automakers want India to cut high tariffs on luxury cars. Data privacy laws are a sticking point. And political instability within the EU, particularly rising protectionism, could derail things. But this time, there is a clear determination to overcome these challenges. Friends, this deal is not happening in isolation. It is part of a bigger geopolitical picture, what I call the new triangle of trade power: India, Europe, and the US. The US wants India as a strategic partner against China. Europe wants to hedge between the US and China. India wants to leverage both sides to accelerate its growth. So, the FTA is not just about business, it is about India's place in the New World Order. What it means for ordinary Indians. You may ask, how does this affect me? Well, here's how. Cheaper EU goods, cars, wines, electronics. More jobs in IT and pharma. As exports expand, companies will hire more. Stronger rupee. More foreign investment means a stronger economy. Global exposure. Indian students, startups, and professionals will find more opportunities in Europe. So, as we head toward December, all eyes will be on how quickly negotiators bridge the gaps. The ministerial visits this week are just the beginning of the final sprint. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying this. The India-EU FTA is not just a trade deal. It is a statement of intent. It is a message to the world that India is ready to shape the rules of global commerce. It shows that the European Union recognizes India's role as the anchor of stability in Asia. It proves that after years of hesitation, the two sides are ready to move beyond negotiation tables and into execution. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be compromises. But the fact that ministers are personally driving this process tells us one thing: the momentum is unstoppable. So remember this week. Remember these ministerial visits, because in the story of India's economic rise, this could well be remembered as the moment when India and Europe finally shook hands on the deal of the century. Thank you.